Today I'll be doing a movie review of Straight Outta Compton. Now, I just saw this movie about 2 hours ago, and I have to say that this movie was superb. It was perfect. Like, it hit the note on everything. And if you haven't already saw Straight Outta Compton, you need to go see it. See it 2 or 3 times, because it's that good of a movie. Now, one of the biggest strengths of this movie was the acting. The people who portrayed the roles of the main characters and even in the minor roles were great. They did a great job. You had Ice Cube's son portraying Ice Cube, and then the guys who portrayed Eazy E and Dr Dre, their characters were wonderful. Like I actually felt like they had a camcorder back when they were blowing up, and they just recorded everything. That's how authentic the authenticity feels from this movie. Also, throughout the movie, you see the emotional development of the members of NWA. Now, if you know anything about this group, you obviously know that most of the members pretty much had a huge falling out with each other. You basically started off with a 5-person group, and eventually, or the first person to leave was Ice Cube, and then you had, the group attack him for leaving, and you see how like the group reacted when, when they heard each other's diss tracks, and then you see Dr. Dre pretty much being involved with, Suge Knight, who is basically I would say he's the biggest villain in the movie. In real life, people don't like him. And actually, in the filming of the film, Suge Knight was actually involved in killing one of the people who was responsible for pretty much setting up the film locations within these neighborhoods. And I'll get to that in a second. And then with Dr. Dre and NWA, you see, basically him pretty much leaving as well later on. And you see how, because Dr. Dre, it always seemed like he was the person who would, pretty much when people would argue, he would pretty much come in and just like mellow things out and just calm people down. You see that throughout the movie. There's a scene with Snoop Dogg when Snoop Dogg first came in, and obviously Snoop Dogg's a Crip, and he had another Crip gang member, and Suge Knight, who is a Bloods member, basically with all his Blood members within the studio, Snoop Dogg and the Suge Knight pretty much were about to fight, along with all the the gang members and stuff, and Dr. Dre pretty much settled everyone down. So you see that that persona of Dr. Dre being more a business, being more of a businessman rather than one to be like hard or a gangster or whatever. And even you see that with Ice Cube as well. Now, one of the things that people were saying that was sort of and this is nitpicking, but what they could have done better was throughout the movie, it almost feels like NWA was a 3-member group and not a 5-member group. And there was actually 2 other guys outside the 5-member group, the Arabian Prince and the DOC. The Prince wasn't even mentioned, I don't think at all. And then the DOC, he had like a few minor scenes or whatever. And then DJ Yella and MC Ren were part of the 5-member group, and even though they were portrayed throughout the movie, you see more time focused on Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, and Eazy E. And even though when NWA was out, each member contributed. There's probably some members who did more, but MC Ren and DJ Yella are responsible as much as the other 3 members for making NWA what it was. And they really didn't, I don't know. It's, to me, I can sort of see where people are going with that, but it's still a good movie. Now, the next thing that I want to hit on when it comes to strengths of the movie was the realism and authenticity that you've seen throughout the entire movie. One of the things that people notice a lot when they have biographical movies is that if someone reaches a certain level of stardom, they only glance at or scratch the surface of a shitty situation that they got themselves out of. But in Straight Outta Compton, that's not the case, because even after they reached their stardom, you know, where they came from pretty much influenced, and then it followed them, you know, throughout their rise to fame. And one of the things that was definitely discussed in this movie was the gangs and the culture of gangs within Los Angeles, and it's in Los Angeles County. Because there's one scene in the movie where it just goes to show like how brutal it was back then. Like, for instance, Ice Cube was on a bus, and you know, the people in front of him were pretty much flashing gang signs. They were saying, "Oh yeah, we're Crips and fuck Bloods," because there was some Bloods who were driving next to the school bus. And what these Bloods did, and they were like, I guess you would call them OGs, they basically drove in front of the bus, and the one guy with the gun knocked on the window, said, "Open up the door," and he basically said, "What are you doing? You know, don't do that again, because the next man will, you know, probably kill you." And you know, that might seem you know, a little crazy, but you know, hey, maybe that kid might have just dropped, you know, wanting to be in a gang or something. I mean, it's a little unorthodox, but you know, it just goes to show how crazy you know, Los Angeles was back then, because there's been people, tens of thousands of people have died in, you know, Los Angeles County throughout the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and even now, there's the gang conflicts are still around today. You know, when they were filming this film, a lot of times they couldn't film in in Eazy E's neighborhood. They couldn't film there because the Crips that were there said that, hey, we're not going to let you guys in, and you guys are going to have to film somewhere else. And you know, there was a lot of times they would have to actually negotiate with the street gangs that control that specific area, because you can't make a Straight Outta Compton movie and have it in the burbs or something. You actually have to have it in Compton. So what they did was they brought on a lot of gang members and, you know, pretty much hired them as actors, and then also they used them to gain access to, you know, different neighborhoods, and that's how they were able to make the movie, because they were saying that this could have been nearly impossible, and there was actually a shooting that happened on the set. So this just goes to show that the gang conflicts are still around even to this day. 30, 40 years since they begun, even though they're probably not as bad as they were back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, they're still, you know, shootouts, you know, on a day-to-day basis. But that's something that I appreciate in this movie, that they looked at. And then also you look at how with the realism, they didn't, you know, sugarcoat how ruthless and cutthroat a lot of these people in this, you know, that were related to NWA were. Like, for instance, Suge Knight is probably, he is one of the most hated people in the rap industry. People don't like him because people know that he got Tupac killed because he couldn't leave the streets alone. You know, even though he was making probably millions of dollars being the CEO of a record label that's selling, I mean, tens of millions of copies. He was a person, Tupac was under his label. Just that, if you know anything about rap music, Death Row was ginormous, and he was probably making millions of dollars from this record label. He just couldn't leave the streets alone. Throughout the movie, you've seen that. You've seen how Suge Knight would strong arm people because he was a high-ranking member of the Bloods gang, and pretty much Death Row Records was their headquarters. And you'd have 20, 30 Bloods gang members, and I mean, literally, when one scene, Snoop Dogg almost got in a fight with Suge Knight because Snoop Dogg was a crip or whatever. So that just goes to show how realistic this movie was. And they didn't try to, sugarcoat or, try to take out some of the stuff about a lot of the beefs that happened. Because, like, for instance, one scene, Suge Knight was having dog fights in Death Row Studios. And, he was beating people with pistols. This wasn't something that's made up. This is the stuff that he would do all the time. That's why Dr. Dre left Death Row, because he said, "Hey, I don't want to have to, deal with this nonsense." And, they showed that throughout the movie. And then also, they showed how Jerry Heller sort of broke up this group, or at least drove a wedge in between them. And I'm sort of surprised that they put that in there, because it's just something that they were able to portray in such a realistic and authentic way that that's why this movie needs to be seen by everyone, because you actually get to see what these people went through. It's no sugarcoating, it's no BS, it's no nothing. It's just like Ice Cube said that he's even to this day blown away on how well this movie was able to be made, because they were trying to make this movie 3 or 4 years ago, and basically Dr. Dre and a lot of the other major people within NWA said no, we don't want to do it, because they didn't want to have their legacy extinguished or whatever by a corny ass movie or something that might misportray what this group was about. And also, without NWA, you probably wouldn't have gangster rap music the way you have it today. The NWA and the people that were in that group, and after they left the group and reached stardom beyond their wildest dreams or whatever, they were able to get they're responsible for Snoop Dogg, Eminem, 50 Cent. There's so many rappers today that were either influenced by NWA, or they pretty much were. And also Tupac as well. Tupac wouldn't have blown up the way he did without the members from this group pretty much doing what they did and paving the way for the next man or whatever. But yeah, and for that I want to say thank you, because I am a lifelong rap fan. I love rap music. I think rap music speaks about real situations. And a lot of people will complain that today's, hip hop or rap is this or that. But you know what? Even the party and dance music, that's fine for certain occasions. But when you want to sit back and chill, you want to listen to something that's actually like stimulating, yeah, like I like rap music, because they talk about the struggle. They talk about overcoming certain situations. A lot of it might be about violence or this and that, but hey, that's just reality. So definitely have to say thank you to NWA and all the people out there who were responsible for this genre of music becoming what it is. And also another rap group that sprung off of NWA, or the members, is Bone Thugs and Harmony. There's just so many groups that are legends that their beginnings are tied to NWA. So thank you. And I mean, I can go on for days talking about rap music and the movie and NWA, but I think this is a good time to say this is all I gotta say. Thanks for watching. Subscribe below, like this video, tell me what you guys think about it in the comments, and share it, because I think this movie needs to be seen by everyone, because a lot of people, they want to brush under the rug the socio-economic problems that face our country. And just look at NWA. They were able to pretty much put in the spotlight what was going on in these areas. And yeah, thanks for watching.